Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and the topic is longevity. We're going to take a deep dive into what it means and what you could do right now, today, to get things going so that you can live your life to the fullest at any age. And here to help me with that is Dr. Jim Hoven, who's been a chiropractic doctor since 1991. He's dedicated to improving lives through quality care by empowering thousands nationwide through health and wellness teachings. He's also aided companies and other chiropractors to do the same. Now he's a COO of Ramus Law and podcast host, really cool podcast. You might want to check it out. Go there, come back here, go there again. The name of the podcast is called The Difference Makers Podcast. And I was a guest on that podcast about 2 years ago, and it was great. He's passionate about guiding Ramus Law with expertise in business systems and leadership and ensuring top-notch client care. I am super excited to dive into this because, as I said, this is a really important topic near and dear to my heart. So without further ado, I am so excited to have Dr. Hoven here with us. Dr. Hoven, thanks for being here.
Are you kidding, Dr. E? It's the least I could do. We had such a great conversation last time. It's been almost 2 years. And for us, that was our, in case anyone wants to go back and check out all this great information, it was like episode 119 of the Difference Makers podcast. And it was just so good that the chance to come back with you, been looking forward to it for a long time.
Oh my God, that's great. So wait, what episode are you up to now?
233, I believe.
Do you divide it up into seasons or do you just go?
No, we just go.
We just go. That's awesome. So this season, we actually decided to set up a seasons. Up until now, my amazing audience has just been hearing me speak. And I realized that I've been, to your point, guesting and meeting these amazing people. And I'm like, I have to bring this amazingness to my audience. So I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And today's episode, this topic is like my favorite topic. I could talk about this all day, which is longevity. Right? Longevity. So before we even get into longevity, well, I guess not before. I guess you're going to have to define it for us, what it means to you. And then you have to tell us what in the world got you into longevity.
What a great starting question. It's a big one. So for me, if I had to give the definition, I would say it is changed and altered over time because now in my mid 50s, it's different. Longevity was different than it was in my 30s because I didn't have the same perspective, right? And so I thought that as you approach 60, you were getting old. And now that I'm going to be 57, I'm like, I feel a lot like what I did in my 30s. So for me, longevity now means essentially, if you look at the work of so many people, whether it's David Sinclair, Andrew Huberman's doing some of it, Peter T is huge into it. When you look at that, longevity is now correlated with a thing called health span, right? As opposed to lifespan.
Nice.
That health span denotes how you go into these later decades of your lives. Some people would call that your sixth, but usually your seventh or eighth decade. How do you enter into that? And so that's where I've landed on that now, Dr. E, is I figure it used to be just about function, right? Could I lift weights and could I do this? And now it's literally much more like, can I take a walk at the level I want with whom I want and still be doing that into my 80s. And so I look at how I train and everything is now structured from a little bit different lens than just where it was so many decades ago.
Yeah. So now you have to tell us how you got into this.
So it started for me with basically, you and I were talking a little bit earlier too. I have the unique opportunity to work for Dr. Joe Ramos. And Dr. Ramos is a medical doctor, board certified trauma ER guy, and just really, really into the health of the body. So over time, he started this company, Ramos Law, that I'm the COO of. And then he has another vision called FitMD. And it's through that company where we both get to still express our love for health, right? And so that's a bioidentical hormone replacement company, medical weight loss company. Through that journey, I started really wanting to dive into HRT and learning some of this because for me, I ended up becoming an HRT patient and it was the best thing that I've done for myself in a long, long time with respect to an adjunct to diet and to exercise and to sleep and to meditation and all these things. And so once I started down that road, then I ran into some of these amazing people in the field of longevity that I mentioned earlier, right? Started out with kind of David Sinclair and Peter Attia, and those guys were guests on the Andrew Huberman podcast. And so it just started me down this trail of really wanting to learn more.
Oh my God, I love this. This is just like organic, just got you there. I mean,
yes.
A little bit of business, a little bit of organic. I love that 100%. So much. I love that so much. I always write things down when people talk because I want to make sure I don't miss any points. I love this idea of health span versus lifespan, right? Because for the longest time, it's like, how long do you live longevity? But it's not that anymore. It's to your point, it's what am I doing? Like, we don't want to be in an old, like in a hospital bed at age 80. That's lifespan.
Yes.
We want to be in 80 doing the same things we're doing at 50. So health span, I love that definition. And of course, we also have to dive into HRT. We have so much to dive into. But now that we've redefined it as health span, what is the state of longevity in our country right now?
Well, unfortunately, if you were to look at the curve on it, for most of us, if we're looking at how we're presenting into old age, because we are basically losing muscle, we're losing hormones, we're losing explosive power, VO2 max, all these things, if we're not training them, we're losing them. And so there's a great diagram in the book Outlive, which is Peter Attia's newest work. It's an incredible piece.
Incredible.
And he talks about the curve shifting where if you're losing all these elements that we talked about, you might spend the last 2 decades in ill health. So from your 60s to your mid 80s, and our lifespan right now is men is right around that 79, 80 mark, as women in 82, 83. And those last couple of decades, if you didn't invest the time before and then you just kind of coasted out, it's a slow, steady decline from health span just to lifespan. And a lot of that is resulting in horrible quality of life those last up to 15 to 20 years. So that's the stage of where we are right now. But I really think that we're at the dawn of something great because more people like yourself are starting clinics that have a different paradigm. And he calls it, again, Attia calls it medicine 3.0 versus 2.0, right? 2.0 is the reactionary, get a diagnosis, give a treatment. 3.0 is, hey, we're going to check baselines. We're going to do all these things. And we're going to not only do medications, but we're also going to do lifestyle improvements to really up the ante. So that curve, and I love this so much, that curve from 70 to 80 as it kind of drives up, now we're going to die of the same thing. That's the weird stuff. We're still going to die of cancer and heart disease and all these things, but instead of being a slow, steady, agonizing deal, we're going to die of the same things, but it's going to be a sharp, steep cliff at whatever the end of our life is. So now instead of suffering, even if we're going to die of cancer, we're going to die in a period of weeks or months rather than years. And that to me was a mind blower.
Yeah, the slow and steady decline is really what you're trying to avoid. Because you're right, we're all going to die, right? Some people feel like, what's the point? We're all going to die. Yes, we are. We have not achieved immortality. No, trust me, I'm looking because I want to spend forever with my wife.
I love that.
But it's the quality of life as we decline is a really important thing. I read his book. Can you still lift your luggage overhead? Can you travel? No matter what, your mitochondria declines. And so it's like, what's your starting point, right? It's like, if no matter what, we're going to have this decline, what are we doing to make sure that we have a higher starting point so that our decline is not from here down? It's from here down, which keeps us at normal. And a metaphor that I like to use with my patients is finances, right? You have some people who are like in credit card debt. Those are my patients who are really ill, and we're trying to get them out of flare-ups and out of their mess. And then there's some people who are living paycheck to paycheck, which is my patients who are like, we kind of know how to control our flare-ups, but we still have too many frequent flare-ups because, people who come to me are usually dealing with something. And then we have our people who are now focused on retirement, which is the longevity people. And now they are at a place where they can start focusing on what they need to do today to be able to have for tomorrow. And that's, to your point. And the reason I mention that is because if you're listening and you're still in a place where you are chronically unwell, you're in that credit card debt or paycheck to paycheck, don't let this overwhelm you. Because sometimes when we talk about the longevity thing, some people are so in pain. And so they can't even think about that part yet. Don't let this overwhelm you. Let's get you out of that feeling unwellness. And once you manage all your flare-ups and get that under control, you could start saving for the future. But for those of you out there who feel fine, let's go.
Let's go. I love that. And you know what? I use a different, and I love what you've done because I use a different financial analogy, but it makes the same thing. And I think together it's rock star. And I use the compound interest effect so that no matter what we're doing, there's an old saying in finances that if you invested from the age of 20 to the age of 29, $2,000 a year, okay, not a month, $2,000 a year, so that's $20,000, and you never put another penny into that account, if you could make 10% a year, by the time you were 65, that would be worth over $700,000.
That's crazy.
Right? 20 turns into over 700 grand. Whereas if you try to start that same thing in your 40s or 50s, you can never get anywhere close because you lose the compounding effect. Well, in health, it's the same way. What we do and what we've done, good, bad, or indifferent, we're getting the compound interest of that. If it's bad decisions, those things pile up until it gets really hard to treat. But we can start today of putting in the investment so that the interest compounds to either stall and arrest, as you were talking about, a health condition, or to move forward into a new level of health, as the new decades come by, that we're now in a completely different position. So I love what you're saying with the credit card debt, kind of to the negative and compound interest. To me, that really, really helps people grab it.
I love it. I guess compound interest sounds complicated to me, but I love that you broke it down for me. Thank you. I love that. Yeah, it's true. It's just a different way of thinking of it. I don't think we think of our health this way. And the other thing is that we are so, and we're going to jump into longevity, but we're so used to thinking of health as I'm not sick. Right?
Yes.
You go to the doctor's office, you do your annual. Great job, Mr. Smith. You don't have cholesterol. You don't have diabetes. Oh, great. I must be okay. That is not the meaning of okay. That is the meaning of not sick.
Yes.
But okay is very far from that. And then all we do when we go for an annual is just get a report card of whether or not we're sick, but it has no grades of wellness. And that makes me crazy.
Yes. And have you found that, and I know that I had to really rethink this. I've been active my whole life and doing all these different, sports and activities and this kind of thing. And as I started thinking about it, I never really asked myself, what of these activities or which of them would I like to do in my 60s, 70s, or 80s? I just was doing them. And then as my work schedule allowed, I would keep or stop doing them. For example, snowboarding, I don't do anymore, and I used to do all the time. Mountain biking, I do less of. Disc golf, I do more of. Working out, I still do. But now, especially after connecting with Dr. Atia's work, what you want to look at is what are the things I want to be doing in what's called that marginal decade, right? Typically your 70s or 80s. What do you want to be able to do? Is it pick up kids? Is it climb a 14er if you're here in Colorado? Is it, do a 5K? Because at the end of the day, you have to have enough capacity at that age to do that. And the great analogy is if it takes a certain amount of capacity to hike to do a 5-mile hike right now, and you as a 35-year-old, you can do it, but you're just at that capacity due to the rate at which we lose those things, those specific elements. Then in your 50s, you won't be able to do it. That activity has to be put by the wayside because you don't have enough, as you said, of reserves for those activities. So having people have a vision to say, what do they want to do besides sit around will help them know how they should train or how they should get there, the things they should incorporate in their lives. And to me, that was another really big concept that was relatively new for me.
Yeah, and I agree. And then also, like, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't want to go to a 5-mile hike, so I guess I don't have to do it. But if you want to go up the stairs,
yes,
the groceries, and right now you're panting, and right now it's hard for you, it will not get easier for you at 60, 70, or 80. You need to be going up those stairs at double speed with twice the weight right now, so that 60, 70, 80, you can carry this one bag up the stairs. And that's how you have to think of it. Yeah, that is so true. What do you want? What do you want to do? I tell people all the time, like, do you want to lift your suitcase overhead? How many people do you see struggling with that, right? So you should be able to do it easily now. So what are the key factors to achieving longevity? What do we have to look at?
So in my mind, there are some, and we can take this focus wherever you want, but the key factors, a lot of people, at least, and I know for me too personally, I know what to do. It's a matter of if I'm going to do it. So everyone knows that you should, quote unquote, eat right? Like the fuel that we make our bodies, it's a miracle that we can get a hard cell from a hot dog. Like it's a miracle that the body can transform stuff from things that it shouldn't and still keep us living, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't get affected or does it all that well. So our nutrition is one thing. Another thing is our water, right? That's a big one. We all know. And exercise. Everyone knows those are the big ones. And again, can we get people educated on what that really looks like? Because not all exercise is created equal when it comes to longevity and lifespan and health span. But then some of the soft ones that I'm really, really all about, because people don't really talk about them, are you getting enough sleep? And that falls maybe in the marginal, right? Are you getting enough sleep? And here's another one that Andrew Huberman introduced me to. Are you getting enough sunlight, specifically that AM sunlight, those kind of low solar hours, to help reset your system, whether it's dopamine issues or whether it's hormones, circadian rhythms? That's a soft one that people don't realize. and then your mental health, right? Are you taking care of yourself mentally and your social connections? And then here's one. I actually brought this for you. I don't know if you've seen this, Dr. E, but this book is called Wonder Drug, and I found this just at the bookstore meandering through the health section, and it's written by a guy named Dr. Stephen Treziak and Anthony Mazzarelli, and these guys are ICU docs, and what they found was there are hundreds and hundreds of studies that show that if we put ourselves in a place of giving, sharing, with empathy and compassion, and the difference being empathy, we feel for the person, compassion, we take action, that if we'll do that, there are a myriad of health benefits. So this is a new one for me too. I'm digging into this, and I find it to be true that when I give of myself, not for the benefit of physical to me, but for the benefit, whether it's my time, talent, my resources, it fills your cup, and you know that? Well, there's just a ton of physical, mental, protective, geoprotective factors that go on when we live our lives like that. And it says that we should look to get 100 hours a year. Breaking that down, that's 16 minutes a day of giving to people, caring for people. In your case, as a provider, having that time, doing it the way you do it, where it's not just you're standing, you have a chart, yes, Mrs. Jones, yes, 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 but rather saying, hey, we're in this together. Yeah. I'm going to help you and I care for you, that their outcomes get better, but so do yours as the provider. So those would be all my big ones, with that back half of those elements kind of being the ones that get less talked about and probably need more attention.
I love that so much. I love that, the compassion, empathy piece, kindness, right? Just be kind. Kindness. I have to say that it's one of my, tenets, like not just around my patients, but even with my team. I take pride in the fact that we take moments, and I'm saying this to any entrepreneurs or business people out there, care for your team, take time for team, know what's going on with your team, create an environment that is, listen, everybody wishes they didn't have to work, but if you have to work, let's create an environment that is full of loving kindness and patience. And that is so important to me also because we spend all day together, right? So if you create this space where it's, a generosity of spirit, of course, it also spills over to your customers and your patients, but it's so important. I never considered that it also has health benefits. So that's good also. So I think you're right. Everyone knows nutrition and everyone knows water, but the two things I really want to focus on is sleep and AM sunlight, because I think a lot of people, as you said, don't mention it. So sleep, and this is a line that I say on all my TikTok. This is what I say. I don't care how much gluten-free ice you're eating. If you don't get enough sleep, your health is not on point.
Yes. Yes. Amen.
Amen. Because lack of sleep is causative for dementia and Alzheimer's. That's insane. Lack of sleep is causative dementia. Everyone's worried about dementia. Are you sleeping 8 hours? Like, wait, and I get it. Some people struggle, but that has to be a priority. What is your comment here on sleep?
So for me, and I think I can go back and forth really well on this. For me, here's the thing with sleep. A lot of people, like they say that we are either morning people or night people, and then God forbid you're a shift worker, right? Where now it doesn't matter what you are, you get forced to change your circadian rhythm. That I think that's disaster on health. But like for me, I'm a morning person, but a lot of that is developed over time. And so what they talk about, at least in some of the stuff that I've been following, is that if you were to just be on vacation and you were to wake up whenever you would wake up, when would that be? And if that's kind of in that 4, 5, 6, that's one group. And if it's 9, 10, or 11, that's another group. And that will kind of tell you where you fall. But either way, no matter when you're going to bed, if you can make sure that you're getting as little light in your eyes, and this is the pre-sleep, right? As little light in your eyes from about 10 p.m. to about 4 to 5 a.m., you're going to do better on yourself, because your body does not like those photoreceptors getting stimulated after about that 10, for sure 11 p.m. Right. And so if people would just get used to what do? We go to bed and we have our screens on and we're just doing that, try to get the last little bit of either education or entertainment or work done. And that really starts taking its toll over time. And our body starts saying, oh, I can't go to bed until I do these things. So now we're sacrificing the quality of sleep. And we're also putting into our eyes this light sensitivity that is harming us. So for me, the sleep cycle, if some people, I know a handful, and there's a guy named Daniel Pink that said there's about 1% of the people that literally thrive on 4 to 6 hours a night. They literally can thrive on 4 to 6 hours a night from his research. And I'm like, wow, but that's 1%. Yeah. So you're going to basically say...
Unlikely that 1%, Miss Ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're going to say people need between at least 6 to 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And so how you divide that up is really important. And so for me, It's, are you prepping for sleep well? Do you have the room dark? Do you have it cold? Do you make sure that you're not eating right before sleep where your body's having to process food and do two things at one time? And then again, did you get light in? Because if you got light in at the beginning of the day, in that first couple of hours, at least before like 10, then all of a sudden it's telling your body that about 16 hours later, it should start going into shutdown mode. And if you then, and I'm not very good at this part, I'm good at the morning sunlight part, but if you can get those last rays of the evening, those wavelengths are telling your body it's time to go start going dark. And the less light that we put in our environment from sundown until bedtime, it's going to help our sleep cycle.
Absolutely. And so you got to the point where I was leading us to, which is I was going to, as I said, let's focus on sleep. Let's focus on the AM sunlight. And they are connected. You
Yes.
add it in because we have this internal clock. That's what circadian rhythm is, right? We're built this way, but our clock needs cues. It needs cues. It doesn't know what time it is. So going out in the sunlight in the morning tells our brain, this is cortisol time. This is wake up time. Let's go. And then exactly to your point, if you can get those evening ones, it is harder. It is harder because like you usually around working, it's telling the brain to shut down. But even if you can't get those evening rays, when you go to bed and you're watching those screens, just like you said, it's confusing your brain. It's telling your brain it's daytime and it's supposed to be telling your brain it's nighttime. And so then you're wondering why you can't sleep. You know, people have this false sense that it's just supposed to be easy. I mean, some of us are lucky. Your sleep depends on all the decisions you made during the day.
So good.
So if you didn't see the sun, drank coffee in your latte at 2 or 3 o'clock, then had a huge dinner, a high carb dinner right before bedtime with a glass of wine. Now you're lying down and you're like, why can't I fall asleep? Dude, you didn't even know decisions all day to get you to sleep, right?
Yes. Yes. What do you think about, and because you're so steeped in this, what do you think about the exercise component to sleep, part A? And then part B is, do you have any supplements that you recommend and really like for your patients on the sleep side of things?
Yeah. Well, what did you mean about the exercise part for sleep?
So like, I know that regular exercise is going to help sleep, and then you got to decide on, so the regular exercise part is important, but then understanding, should you exercise right before you go to bed? Should you exercise in the morning? Is that an independent thing based on that person's, not only their schedules, but their body type, right? The kind of their circadian rhythm. Have you noticed some of that tying together to sleep quality?
Sure. I think it depends also on the type of exercise. For example, a gentle yoga or a stretch in the evening could signal a downtime, right? Because it's about brain signaling. It's signaling a relaxing time. But if you're going to do a high intensity, high energy music blasting at 9 p.m., you are sending a message to your body like, let's go. It's not going to be ready to shut off 45 minutes later. I mean, again, there's always outliers, but generally speaking, you want that rush in the morning. It's in line with when you should have this high energy, and it's setting the stage for sleep at night. But for most of my clients, I would say an evening workout, a high intensity workout, doesn't work. How about you?
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I would agree with that. The other thing interesting that I never thought of, and this was a Andrew Huberman thing, talking about heat and cold exposure, that heat exposure, as weird as it sounds, like we all want to be cool when we go to bed, right? Because our core temperature drops 1 to 3 degrees at the end of the night in the deepest part of sleep. And then right when we wake up, it's at that low point, and then our temperatures just start going up. So we think, well, if we put our body temperature up right before bed, that's a bad thing. And that's what on the surface makes sense. But if you look at one level deeper, when you get your body under heat, whether it's in a hot tub or a sauna or whatever, your body has to go into now like cool down mode. And it says,
Correct.
I'm pushing the temperature down. So it actually, for some people, will really help them sleep if they get into a heated environment. And then if anything, just take a quick cool shower and then go to bed from then, because now their body's into getting cool mode.
Absolutely. A warm bath. This is why a warm bath before bedtime works, because you are hot. But then when you walk out, you have this cool down and it gets you ready for bed. So absolutely correct. And then you asked me about supplements. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But I really love melatonin, L-theanine. But melatonin, when the client is generally clean, right? It's not going to work if you had 6 espressos and a latte. Like sometimes like, this never worked for me. I'm like,
yes.
Right, but what else is on board?
Yes.
It's not going to work if you just finished a cocktail either. It's not going to work. So if you're relatively clean and you're eating and drinking well, melatonin for most of my clients really does wonders. How about you?
Yeah, I think the combination with a slight amount of melatonin with the magnesium threonate and some of the other things, like I really like the supplement called, and I'm not tied to them in any way, but it's called Calm, CALM.
Yeah.
And that seems to work really good for a lot of people. And the only thing to melanin that I've ever heard, and I've never dove deep into it, is that in male rats that have too much melatonin, that it can affect their gonadal programming and how it works. And so from one perspective, like, look, a lot of the melatonin, it's 5, 6, 7x kind of what they're talking about. So you really got to pay attention to that, especially in males.
Yeah, you don't want to go high dose on anything. It should be, 1 to 2 milligrams should be enough for melatonin. Sometimes I hear some pretty outrageous doses, which I could imagine, like anything when you take too much will have a negative effect.
Yes.
Right about magnesium. And
Yes.
Magnesium theanine, because that is great. It's not too heavy on the GI. And it's really helps you sleep. And also for anyone who suffers with restless leg syndrome or spasms at night, taking mag seems to really help at night.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What a great conversation. This is good stuff. I bet people are like taking furious notes and your patients are loving it.
I hope so. All right. So we talked about some key factors. But one thing, you kind of touched on it, but how does stress reduction play in longevity?
Well, I will tell you this. This is a personal story, and I will share this with you. And I don't know that we got into it, or even if it had happened yet when you and I spoke last time, but our youngest son passed away just over 2 years ago. And he was 25 years old when he passed, and literally the worst event that could have happened in my life. And I could, for 1,000 reasons, some that are obvious, some that are probably not. But my hair has gotten so much grayer in the last 2 years. And I have a really good stress reduction plan that I've had in place for a long time. And so there are some levels of stress. It ages the body, right? Stress ages the body. So the point being of all that, I learned firsthand of how important stress management is, and how we all do that, I think, differs. But yeah, lifespan, health span, longevity are all tied to how we navigate and manage stress, because we're not going to get away from it. And as we all know, if you want to thrive, you need stress. Like your muscles don't grow without stress. Your bank account doesn't grow. Your business doesn't grow. Your relationship doesn't grow without some stress and tension. But it's when that tension becomes more than our capability physically, mentally, or emotionally to adapt to it, then we don't thrive anymore. Now it starts a breakdown process. And so for me, having a stress reduction plan in place would include a great exercise program, because we're kind of burning through some of that stuff and allowing us to process emotionally and mentally through the physical. So I love exercise. And then I love a time of quiet, reflective meditation, no matter what your spiritual bent might be. But giving gratitude and grace for where we're at, I think, becomes really important. And from this book, The Wonder Drug, that we talked about earlier, there's study after study that shows that people that have undergone stress, when they've undergone it, if they can give back to someone else who's undergoing stress, and especially if they care for that person, like you mentioned, you want to live forever, to be with your wife forever. If you do something for her to relieve her stress, it's going to help your stress. And so those are all important things, because yes, I know firsthand stress has an effect on every part of our lives.
Has affected every part of our lives. I need to just take a moment to share my condolences. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And just give you a moment to thank you for finding the tools to be strong enough to be here and to give to others, because I cannot imagine how much inner strength that takes. So I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that so much.
Of course. That's intense. Thank you for sharing that with us. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's hard to move to the next little thing after.
It is hard to move there, but you know what? I'm going to, in the spirit of what it is that you're doing, I'm going to continue on. So I think you also touched on this, which is the role of great relationships play in longevity, because I think you're saying that as you're giving to others, it helps you as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. There's research that talks about how it helps our cardiovascular health. It helps prevent cancer. It helps us deal with stress. All of these things, if our intention is right, Dr. E. That's the beauty part of this, that you literally get none of the benefit if you come at it from a selfish reason. Like, I'm going to go help this person. I'm going to give to the poor. I'm going to make burritos for people who need it because it's going to make me healthier. They get zero of it.
That's not it.
Yeah, definitely. Compassion and empathy from the right place is shown to have massive amounts of physical, mental, and even emotional kind of geoprotectors for our bodies.
Absolutely. And stress is, people ask me all the time, does stress make you sick? So I would say generally speaking, it's not the thing that makes you sick, but stress is a chemical reaction in your body. And anything that is underlying or happening when that chemical reaction happens, it can turn the flame on. It's inflammatory.
So exactly. Yeah.
Right. So anything that you have going on is inflammatory. And where you're in a space of kindness, compassion, and gratitude. Oh my God, I love that so much. That is anti-inflammatory. Literally and truly chemically anti-inflammatory. Not just like in a woo-woo sense. Like it's changing chemical pathways in your body when you're in that mode. And I love that you said gratitude because, obviously everybody should meditate every day. And I find that to be a very challenging practice. And if I could get 5 to 7 minutes of that without starting to think about it, then I think it's a great meditation day. I'm amazed at people who could do longer. But the thing that always helps me get there, everyone I need to do guided meditations. I can't just be silent. God bless those who can. But any guided meditation that's around gratitude, it's amazing that you're just taking a moment to be grateful and you just feel shifting in your body. Just being grateful, not manifesting abundance, not manifesting success, just being grateful. It has this whole, physical feeling for me when I meditate to that.
I want to give you such kudos to that because unbeknownst to me, again, as I was reading in the book, in the Wonder Drug, I've always been about, like you said, I don't do well in trying to get deep in my own mind because it moves around a lot. So I needed guided meditation. And as I'm reading this book, it says, and I think, by the way, I think two things can be true at the same time. So I don't know that I'm 100% on board with this, but it said that when you self-focus, when you're making it all about you, that you lose all this benefit of the health side, including in meditation. And so I've spent a lot of time creating my dream life in my mind and having the relationships that I want in my mind and all this stuff, right? And then when the reason that they make that comment is because there's a guy, he's called the happiest guy in the world, and he's a monk, of course. And literally when they register with brainwave activity, this guy is the part of his brain that lights up with happiness. He is off the charts, Dr. E, off the charts. Wow. They've never seen anyone like him. And they asked him what he thinks about and what he meditates. And his only meditation is called the loving kindness meditation. And I never knew what that was. So I Google quick loving kindness meditation on YouTube, and now I get 100 of them a day that come through, And basically what it is it's a thing that goes exactly what you said, is where you're in gratitude. And so first you're in gratitude for yourself, and you would say something along the lines of, may I live in happiness, may I live in peace, may I live in safety, and may others do the same. And once you feel full, then you put it out to the next level, right? To someone dear to you, and then out to the next level. And when you keep doing just that same little mantra, pretty soon as you feel it, you just extend it. And pretty soon you're doing all living and non-living beings on the planet. So It sounds a little like, holy cow, but according to the research and the scientific data, this dude that focuses on that has a higher happiness quotient in his brain than all the rest of us almost put together. So I've been incorporating that as part of my routine, because my meditation before was a lot of gratitude and then a lot of stuff for my health using Qigong and some Qigong movement methods with my mind to say, I see myself healing. So now I've tried to take it away from me so much and make it about other people. So maybe there is a shift in that according to what this book says there is. It's pretty interesting.
I love that so much. Yeah, I love that so much. And I think, it's true for everything. It's true even, I know that's not what we're talking about, but even when you're building a business, you start building it at first for yourself and your goals. But then when you start thinking of your team and how you're using your platform to make impact, it shifts the whole dynamic of the whole business, and it's interesting to see that it's not just in health. When you shift from the I to the we or to, the community, a lot of things happen.
It might be a universal principle now that we're talking about it, because think about it, in a relationship, when you shift from the I to the we in an organization, if it's a nonprofit or a church group or a sports team, it seems to be the same. So maybe we're onto something here that thing, it's a universal truth.
Maybe everybody knows it and you and I are the only ones who just discovered it now. They're like, yes,
that's right.
Thanks so long, Dr. Hoven, Dr. E. We've been there. Well, anyway, it was an epiphany for us, so we'll take it.
Yes, we'll take it.
We'll take it. So as we're getting close to wrapping up, is there anything that maybe I forgot to ask or something that's important that you want to leave our audience with?
Here's what I would share with you. And we didn't dive too far into TRT, but I would say another secret for longevity and for health span is considering, if required, that someone look at HRT/TRT, hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, things of that nature, because especially through stress, if we are not managing the rest of our lives, and if we increase stress, that drives our hormones down a lot more than just with the age related. And as you know, from our 30s on, we start having hormone decreases, which leads to a decrease in muscle mass and energy and libido. But when it comes to and focus and sleep and all these other things, but if we spend a good amount of time talking about the importance of having good muscle mass as we get older, not only to help us do things we want to do, but protect from things like hip fractures. If you have a hip fracture, there's a 30+% chance you're going to be dead in a year if you're over 65. And all these other things, well, if we are able to maintain muscle mass, maintain energy, and if there's a simple way to do it that's safe and effective, like hormone replacement therapy under a qualified supervised program, to me, that is an absolute game changer in someone's health span.
I'm so glad you mentioned it, because I did write it down and then I forgot to see what was the point of writing it down. But you're right. So HRT, and specifically, at least for women, BHRT, bioidentical.
Yes, 1,000%. Yep.
Yeah. And for men, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. It not only is it good, as you said, the things that you mentioned, libido, muscle mass, and drive, it's also Alzheimer's prevention.
Yes. Yeah. And cardiac prevention too, when it's done correctly.
Yeah. So you really can't even talk about Alzheimer's prevention if your hormones are not on point. All hormones, thyroid, insulin is a hormone too as well, but estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, all of it has to be on point and balanced. And there used to be this old school, like, oh, hormones are dangerous. Now, studies have been shown to be flawed for many reasons. And we are living in a new age. You know, a generation ago, we were not expected. We just kind of went out to pasture. So there was not a lot of research done in health span. It's a new age. This is the generation where our 60s, 70s, and 80s, we are not going out to pasture. We're not staying home and like just making cookies. Although if you love doing that, amazing. But we want to travel. We want to, continue being active. HRT is without question a piece of that. And I'm so glad that you resurfaced that. It's so important.
My pleasure. This has been such a wonderful conversation, Doctor. We could go for hours.
I know. That's what happened last time too. I remember.
I know. Do you remember?
That's so funny. So wait, so now I have to ask you, is there anything else that we forgot to talk about?
And here's all I would say is that people understand how much control that they really have in their lives, that if we will first become self-aware of where we are. I think everyone should get baseline blood work so that they know where they are, and some other tests, right? They know where they are, and then set this goal, the stage of where they want to be in their marginal decade, and then have people in their corner like you, right? Whether it's here in Colorado at FitMD or where, you're at Dr. E's, the new method, right? Doing these things. You need people in your lives that have been there and that are guides to help with answers. But there's also so much, you got to be a little careful, but people should educate themselves through, all these resources. You could find, people we've talked about, Huberman, Attia, Sinclair. You can find all these people for free.
Yeah.
And so by putting a conscious awareness and then a conscious effort into being healthy, that is our single best way to start the process of becoming healthier as a society. And then it's just taking the action behind it. But I think the knowledge comes first.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. You're right. And there's so much we get access to for free. And I'm glad you mentioned those names, because I think those are really some top quality names of where you can start getting into this world. I love that. And of course, I'm going to put all of your links and Dr. Ramos's links here on our captions so that there's so many great minds in this world, and learn what you can from everyone. I love it so much.
Amen.
Dr. Hoven, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure and an honor.
It's always great to talk to you, Dr. E. Anytime that we get a chance to get together, I want to do it, no matter what the format is.
Amen. Thanks.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.